It's summertime, so we've been grilling a lot, especially zucchini and eggplant. Basically doing a lot of our meal prep outside, because it's nice out. And it got me thinking, what would it taste like if I were to use that grilled eggplant for an eggplant parm? And surprisingly enough, my very sad-looking backyard garden that can't grow anything has some eggplant growing. Now, a raccoon or a cat or something decided to try and taste it and see if it tasted any good. But luckily it didn't actually take a full bite out of it. So I'll just cut that part off and slice the rest into 1/4 inch or maybe 5 or 6 millimeter pieces. I'll douse it all in olive oil to promote some nice caramelization. Then I'll season it with some salt, some pepper, I had this little seasoning packet lying around, so I'll try that out. Seems to have some savory herbs going on. By the way, I had to come up to my house in Vermont to do some work, so I'm working with a limited pantry and limited kitchen, as you'll see with some of the choices I'm making here. I was also thinking about what it would be like to extend that grilled flavor profile throughout the dish. So I'm going to roast some tomatoes on the grill and make my sauce with those. I'm also going to throw a whole bulb of garlic on the grill and roast that as well. And yeah, I know this grill needs to be cleaned. I got this for free off Craigslist. I think it was used professionally for like a street food vendor, which is why it's so caked in grease. I was able to get the top layer off, so hopefully whatever's left won't get me sick. I'll keep grilling and flipping those eggplant until they got some nice grill marks and caramelization on the outside, and until they're nice and tender. And once the tomatoes start blistering and wrinkling up, then I think we're good to go. And the garlic, it's kind of hard to tell. You kind of just got to poke it and prod it and see how soft it is, because it can get pretty charred on the outside while still being totally raw on the inside. So let's go ahead and make that sauce. I'm going to add a few tablespoons of olive oil into a pot, and then I'll throw in the tomatoes whole. I want to maintain as much of that smoke flavor as possible. I know it's probably not the healthiest thing to have actual char in here, but we could also scoop that out later once it's lent its flavor to the sauce. I don't have any sort of masher implement or stick blender to use here, so I'm just using a wooden spatula to mash those tomatoes into a sauce. That got me to a chunky consistency, so I switched over to some kitchen shears to get it a little bit smaller. And then I even tried using a whisk, but that didn't really work. Next, I'll break off some garlic cloves from the bunch, discarding the burnt paper from the outside. And since this would have mellowed out in flavor from roasting, I'm going to use more than I normally would for a sauce. And to be honest, I probably should have used even more than I did, just to reinforce that garlic flavor. I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt, and I have an abundance of basil in the backyard, so I'm going to throw some of that in. And just let that go for about a half an hour until everything breaks down and turns into a nice smooth sauce. Alright, now to assemble our parm. I do not have an appropriate sized baking dish in this house, so I'm just going to make one out of foil. I'm going to try and origami my way out of this. Fold up a couple ends. Fold the other ones over and hopefully it'll not leak. There we go. Kind of small, but it's a one-person dish, so I'll go ahead and throw a little bit of tomato sauce in the bottom of here so nothing sticks and burns. A couple little pieces of eggplant, and I'm trimming them to fit, but you probably won't have to if you do this in a full-size vessel. A little more sauce on top. Some grated parm. And to further reinforce the grilled smoky flavor, I'm using smoked mozzarella. Just going to slice it nice and thin. And put a little layer of that on top. And then I'll repeat the process. A layer of eggplant, this time I'll throw some fresh leaves of basil in just to balance out the smokiness. A little bit of sauce, some more parm, some more mozzarella, and do it all again. At this point my vessel was full, and I could have stopped, but I had a couple slices of eggplant left, so I just built onto my tinfoil container. And finished that off. And as usual, since the eggplant is already cooked, we can just throw this into a 350 Fahrenheit toaster oven for about 20 minutes until the top is nice and golden and the cheese is gooey. And then I'll transfer it over to a plate and dig right in. And this actually turned out really well, but it's a totally different beast from what you're probably used to with an eggplant parm. It has that smoky charcoal flavor that you get from grilling vegetables. The smoked cheese definitely adds to that, but beyond that, the sauce is very light. I think especially because the garlic got so mellow from roasting. It's really just a light, summery eggplant dish that tastes like you just got it off the grill. It's really nice, and I hope you try it out.